Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Big Money Stylist Podcast. I feel like I'm on the wrong side of the bed.
You are. I chose this spot on purpose.
Oh my gosh, I was like, you're in my freaking spot.
I was like, this is my good side. So
oh my gosh.
Like,
I literally was like, but actually, I feel like this should be my spot because this is like where the control panels are. So maybe, but you know, I don't know why I don't like this spot. I feel weird.
I was like, she's not in here. I'm sitting down.
I feel weird. It's like literally like, you know, when you have like a side of the bed and then you're like, oh, I'm on the wrong side of the bed, but it's okay. I'll get used to it. Maybe it'll be a great show because I'm like, I don't even know where to look. This is so weird. But okay, you guys. So I do a podcast every week pertaining to hairstylists. I am the creator of Natural Beauty Row Hair Extensions. It is, I always am like, it's like the OG of like hand-tied hair. Like it's like a thing. True. So every week I bring on a stylist or a guest and we try to share stories, share value, pretty much whatever comes out. You know what I mean? Right. And Sarah was just making fun of me because I was like literally on Amazon because she's like, aren't we starting? I'm like, hold on. I have the worst.
Check my Amazon cart.
No. I have the worst memory that like the other day or last week, I went to Target. Literally, I think to get a toy bin and something else, but I didn't write it down. Guess what I didn't?
Not any of the things you needed.
No, I didn't even get what I went for. I spent like $400.
That happens to me all the time.
And I didn't even get the stupid toy bin and like the three and like there's some like lights that I needed. And then I was so irritated. I got home and I turned around and went back and got them.
Oh, that I wouldn't.
I was committed. I was like, I'm committed. I only have this day to get this stuff done. Oh, yeah. So it is what it is. But I've had Sarah as a guest quite a few times.
Because I'm your favorite, obviously.
Yeah, you just are committed because you're committed and I like it. But every time, if you've heard some of our other podcasts, I'm like, Sarah, did you get an assistant? Because I assume, because her work looks so fabulous, I was like, you must work with like 9 assistants at least. 9. At least 9.
Negative 9.
Negative none. So every time she comes on, I give her a challenge. I'm like, did you get an assistant? She's like, no. So I'm ready.
Here's my story. Okay, so in trying to figure out like how to get an assistant, how to create a structure for an assistant, how to even figure out like a decent schedule to like put into place to hire an assistant, it occurred to me, and I was talking to Katie and we were talking about it, and I was like, here's the thing, what if like there's got to be people out there besides just me without an assistant? Or like, what if your assistant calls in sick? Like, I have a couple I have more than a couple, but hairstylist friends where they're like, oh, my assistant called in sick today. Now I'm screwed. Like, I have nothing. So
that's why you always have 2.
Or you know how to work with none.
I mean, that's a danger zone.
It's fine. So now.
See how your voice went all high pitched?
I did. I was like, so I was talking to Katie and I'm like, we need to create something inside of our mastermind that is like how to work effectively, like with or without an assistant, so that if they call in sick.
I say it's like your flow, like your how do you adjust your appointment flow?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it's called, appointment flow.
I agree. It's an appointment flow. Now, back to.
I'm stressed.
Here's the thing. I've been behind the chair for 20 years. My first 10 years, I did not work with an assistant, mainly because it stressed me out the thought of like trying to delegate and train an assistant.
Yeah.
I didn't even know how to do it. And I understand like when people come on to the education, it's always a conversation of like I'm always like, how many, like we'll do, say we did a class or a VE event and there's like 50 people in there. And I'm like, how many of you guys have an assistant? Like 2 out of 50 people raise their hand. So it's not actually that uncommon, right? And I think the most valuable thing, and I think when you're first getting into hair, you're like, well, my first goal is like get some clients in my chair. Right. Like you're not going to hire an assistant right out of the gate when you don't have a book of business.
It's like when students are like, okay, how do I get an assistant? You're like, do you have any clients?
And they're like, no. Yeah, you're like, well, we have a marketing problem. So let's start with where we're at. But then it gets to this place where I felt like I'd been doing hair for like 10 years. And I just got to this point where there was this guy that worked at a salon with me. And I would always be like running around like a chicken with her head cut off, like just trying to, I could do it. Like I could do it. Like I was fine. I could do it. But I was having my clients help me blow dry the hair. And I was like, literally, my clients would stop me and say, can you please go eat? Have you eaten today? And I'm like, I don't even think I've peed. I'm scared to drink water because I might actually have to stop.
If I drink water, I have to pee.
Yes.
I have to pee, I have to stop.
And so I had clients that I became friends with, and they're like, have you eaten today? I must have looked real like gaunt and skinny. So it kind of got to a point where there was this guy, and I'm just sharing this story, and then I won't bug you about an assistant anymore. There was this guy who worked, he was a stylist. He was awful at marketing. He was like, he just sat in the salon and worked commission. And he waited for them to bring him clients. And he was always like asking me like, how did you build up so fast? I'm like, I'm always like marketing my ass off. But he like wouldn't do it. He just sat around and like waited for people to come in. But I walked in and I went to this salon. This was when I first moved to California. And I was like, I want booth rent. And the guy's like, you don't want to do commission? Do you have a clientele? I go, nope. But if I say I want booth rent, and I have to pay you, I'm going to find a way to get clients. Yeah. Anyway, long story short, this guy, he was always sitting around. He's a really nice guy. And I'd be like, hey, since you're just sitting there, can you do a blow dry and like curl for me? And then I'd tip him out at the end of the day.
Oh, that's convenient.
So he would shave like 45 minutes off my appointments just by picking up like a blow dry and style because I was behind because I was such a perfectionist like with my color. Like I was always like, oh my God, I have to like make sure that this color's perfect and I don't care if my next client's here, like I got to get it done, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I finally got to this place where he asked me, he goes, can I assist you? I was like so hell-bent on doing it on my own. He's like, can I assist you? He's like, I mean, if you could just pay me like $12 an hour, I'd be happy with that. Cause I was tipping him like, he would do a couple blow dries for me almost every day and I'd give him like $30.
Oh yeah.
So he's like thinking, if I'm sitting here, I might as well be making $12 an hour.
Instead of trying to get clients, he's like, I'll help you.
Yeah, right? And I was like, okay. And so anyways, and he wanted to learn these extensions that I was doing. Mm-hmm. So anyways, I was like, all right. Like, I don't even know if I paid him. I swear I paid him like nothing. I kind of felt bad. But he asked me, he's like, can I? Yeah, he's like, he asked me, he's like, you don't have to pay me that much, like $12 an hour, $13. I was like, okay. So then I'm like, that's fine. So I hire him and I literally like was like, wow, just him cleaning up and doing blow dries is worth $12 an hour.
You don't want to do.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so then I started to slowly, relinquish control. And I'd be like, hey, can you tap this base? Can you root this? You know what I mean? It was like baby steps.
Like tiny
baby steps. And there were so many things he fucked up and so many things. And I realized I'm like, it's fine. And then I realized it was my fault. It was my fault because I assumed he could read my brain.
Yeah.
And he was like, I remember.
Mistake.
Yeah, he was like, I was like, no. So now I've become a very good communicator in having an assistant.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt that it can be done solo. But I will tell you, and then I will leave you alone, it has helped me as an educator and a communicator to have an assistant because it forces me to delegate. And it also forces me, when they fuck up, who fucked up? I did.
Yeah.
Because I didn't communicate what was in my brain. I'll never forget Mary, who works for me. And I've never had an assistant say this, and I was like, I like you, Mary. I'm sitting there, and I'm in my zone coloring, and she's over at the shampoo bowl. And I'm like, yeah, go mix up a toner. Da, da, da. I can't remember what I said. Yeah. And she's like sweating. I'm like, what is she? She's like sweating over there. And she looks at me and she goes, and she's just like, I don't know what's in your brain. Can you just tell me? Like because
she didn't tell her what to mix?
I can't even remember, but I was like, no assistant has ever come back to me and been like, I don't know what you mean. Like they've been like scared to do that. So they do something and then I'm like, what are you doing? You messed it up. And then I'm like, I didn't communicate. So she was like one of the first assistants that like freaked out on me and was like, I don't know what's in your brain. And that's exactly how she said it. And I was like, oh, yeah, I assumed. Okay. So anyways. But yes, I think that it is very valuable in learning your work pace solo until you get busy enough to where you're like, I'm so tired at the end of the day. I need help, right?
That's true.
And when you're at that point, your quality of work will go up.
Yeah.
It will because you're not exhausted, right?
That's true. I will say I appreciate the persistence, so bug me away. It's fine. I'll be here next week.
How many clients do you take a day?
3.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I was doing. I was doing 3 clients a day. I think I started at 8 and I'd work till 6.
I work until I work from 9 to 2:30.
And you can do 3 clients? Yeah. No.
Well, not all.
Are you on drugs?
We'll talk about that later. No drugs. Okay. So a new install max takes me 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
So, but I kind of work it so if I happen to randomly have a color, because sometimes I still take colors, so I'll put them in between. And so I can like do 3 in a day. So I don't do 3 consecutive extensions.
Oh, okay. I was like doing the math, and I was like, you wouldn't be done. Yeah, I was like, you wouldn't be done by 2.
She's like, you lying bitch.
I was like, because I can do when now I'm like, I take my time because I just take my time now because I don't do that many clients. So if I go in, I only take like maybe 1 or 2, and I'm not as like, there's not that stress and pressure. But when I didn't have an assistant and I was doing it on my own, it was actually every 3 hours. It was I think it was 9, noon, and 3, and I think I'd get out about 7. I think I was like a 9 to 7. It wasn't 8 to 6. It was more like 9 to 7.
Yeah.
But still, like I took them every 3 hours. It was a 9-hour day, and I was like smoked. I was like, it was just a lot. Like I didn't eat or breathe.
Oh yeah. I will say I have like a mini assistant, so I am officially married now.
Oh yay! Oh good.
Very confusing. So. He'll come in on his lunch break, and I'm like, hey, could you blow dry those webs real quick? I mean, he gets paid. It's fine.
Who is it?
My husband.
Your husband comes in? He gets paid in sexual favors?
I mean, yes.
That too?
That too. I don't pay him in cash, so.
Oh, that's a good man.
He'll sit there and he'll blow dry, and I'm like, I mean, don't sit there and do nothing. Like,
yeah, you're like, you're sitting there. You might as well just do that. Yeah. That's fine. What does he do?
He works for the city, so he kind of does all of these random things, and then he's a diesel mechanic also.
Okay.
So, yeah, when he comes in for lunch, man, I'm like, oh, there's a blow dryer. I'm like,
get to work.
I'm like, Danielle will be so proud of you.
Do you have you don't have a receptionist, huh? Because how many people work at your salon?
Just right now, it's just me, and I have a nail tech.
Okay, so is it just like a studio suite, or I can't remember?
Kind of. It's a little bit bigger than that.
Okay.
I could potentially have more people. I have 2 chairs.
Oh, okay.
And then I have like 2 back rooms. So I could essentially, honestly, put 4 chairs in there. I just don't want to.
You don't even want to hire an assistant. How are you going to hire? How are you going to hire staff?
I'm just not there yet. It's fine.
So tell me. Okay, so I had both Luz and Kiki on yesterday on a podcast, and I just sat and interviewed them and asked them a little bit about their story. Yeah. And I'm like, I feel like I know you, but I don't. I don't know like your full story.
What do you know about me?
I know you've been married. I know you've been married 9 times.
10.
You're from Utah. You have 6 children.
Kids. Yeah. Yeah.
No, like tell me, like how long have you been doing hair? When did you find MBR?
So I did hair school when I was in high school as a senior, and then like probably halfway through. So I graduated and I was almost done with hair school, and then I got pregnant. And so I finished hair school, kind of took a little bit of a break from hair, and then I actually started, like I kind of did my own thing off and on, and it never really worked because I was never consistent enough to try to get clients. I was just like, oh, I'll just do hair here and there. And then I started assisting for my sister-in-law, and I feel like that's how I learned to be like efficiently fast. I was always fast because, to be honest, I had that fear of like being the last one done in class and everyone stared at you. So I was like, I gotta be fast. So she actually did a full day in 4 hours. So we constantly had 3 clients going at once. So she would start on one, I'd finish.
She was double booking.
Triple booking sometimes. Yeah. And so she would look at me with those eyes and be like, I need to be faster. And I'm like, she's like, cry in the closet. I'm like, okay.
Cry in the closet.
So I'm like, okay. So I learned a lot from her. And then when
multitasking.
Yeah. When I got married and moved down to Delta, I actually quit doing hair because I was like, well, I can't do hair by myself. I'm used, like, because, if I screwed up, it was her fault, essentially. And, like, she would always tell me what to do.
Not in her eyes, it wasn't.
Right. Right. Which I didn't screw up a ton, but when I started doing hair on my own, I would call her in the back room and be like, I don't know what to do. And eventually she stopped answering my phone calls. And I was like, I need your help. And she's like, no, you don't. You're fine.
Yeah,
and so she would like ignore. I'm like, no. So I did. I had to figure it out on my own and realize like, okay, I actually know what I'm doing. I don't need her to help me. And then I actually got into NBR because I tried all the methods. I hated them all. I desperately wanted my hair to grow because it would never grow past here.
You look like you have good hair.
It's questionable. Right now it's like really,
it's a mane.
So yeah. I'm like, got out of the Amazon forest. Is that a thing? Rainforest, maybe? Anyway,
no.
Off task. So then I saw you and your page, and then I kind of got into the podcast, and then I found Allie, who had done it like right before. And she was like, you have to join this program. And I was like, I hate extensions. They're garbage. And I was like, honestly, I went into getting NBR.
Because you'd done everything and you were like, I don't like any of these. I don't want to offer them as a service.
No.
Yeah.
And so and I did tape-ins on a few clients and I hated them so much. I made my clients peel off the tape themselves. I was like, I'm not touching that shit.
Yeah, you're like, no, thank
gross.
you.
Yeah. So I went into getting NBR thinking I was going to hate it. And when I loved it, I was like, I'm going to hate this just like everything else, but I'll try it because why not? So I did it, and I was like, oh, dang. I was like, it blends, it looks good. And everyone would be like, oh, my gosh, your hair grew so fast. I'm like, morons, it grew like 18 inches overnight. It's fine. So, yeah. And
so you were not doing, you had learned a bunch of extensions, but you weren't really offering them. At this point, you had your own like clientele, your book of business.
Because I am a terrible liar. And so when people would be like, oh, I want to do tape-ins, how do you like them? I'm like, I hate
garbage.
them. Right. Garbage. So, garbage. I hate them. So I could never market for them because
I didn't like them.
I didn't like them. And so Allie was just like, you have to do it. You have to do it. You have to do it. Mastermind's great. Like all these things. And I was like, oh, I don't know. So then once I actually loved them, I was like, I might actually be able to learn this. So then I signed up and did all the things. So
is your book of business primarily NBR though?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do still take color.
How long did it take you to convert your book of business? Like, was it just like an overnight? Was it like gradual? Were you just like kind of, you do still take color? I do. But do you mostly have, like, what would you say your percentage of color is right now in your books?
Probably 20.
Okay.
I don't have a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, when I go in there and everyone's like all fired up and it's a big convention and they're just like yelling and they're just shouting and dancing and then they're like, oh, I did this with my business or I did this or I did this and all you have to do is listen. I'm like, okay, well, okay. So they're like, drop your men's cuts, drop your kids' cups, drop all the things. And I was like, done. So I dropped them all and everyone's like, are you fucking insane?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I guess. But they said it would work, so here I am.
Yeah.
And so
but it's like when you had those spaces and then you only market extensions, you're gonna plug in those spaces with only hair extensions.
And for a while there, when I didn't have any clients, I would like text everyone I knew with long hair, and I was like, "Will you let me do your hair?" So just so that I could post pictures of like longer hair. Because I had all like the fashion colors and like the random haircuts because I would take pictures of them. And I was like, okay, well, if I want long-haired clients, I'm going to have to, like...
change your feed.
Change my feed a little bit and stop posting the cuts and the random, like, whatever. So
yeah, we're like, we get it. You do hair, but, like, what do you offer? Yeah.
So I definitely had to, like steer the other way. But it probably, like, within the first year, I doubled my income.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was still I was probably doing more color than extensions.
Were you the same amount of busy or less or more, about the same amount of busy?
I was probably less busy because I had cut back all those things.
But you doubled your income in the first year. Yeah.
So I cut back on the days that I worked, and then I cut all of those things out, and I was like, I don't know what to do with all this free time.
Yeah.
So then I tried really hard to get good at like photos and like the posing and then the background, and then so I have like severe OCD, I swear, because I'm like, okay, I can't have it look like that. I need it to look like this.
I think your photos are really pretty now.
Thank you. But back then, I was like,
yeah. You're like, that's not good.
Because I would take pictures like everyone else, like in the chair with all the shit in the background. And I was like, I don't like that.
Yeah, it doesn't look great.
Yeah.
So it took you about a year. You have now, and then when did you become a trainer? How long has it been?
I do not know the answer to that question. Probably.
When did we invite you to be a platform artist?
Well, let me think. I didn't.
You didn't?
No. So I actually started doing, it was kind of like the same week that it all happened. So Ani and Katie actually were like messaging me back and forth and about feedback, doing feedback, because they're like, oh, like we've noticed that your work is getting really good. Like we've been watching you for a while. And Katie was like, tell me all the things. Like why do you want to be a trainer? And I was like, what? I was like, I don't know.
That.
Yeah.
Because it's funny because the last time we brought on trainers was when we had like, it was when Mastermind was still going and we're like, hey, it was like people would ask to be a trainer, but we hand selected who we wanted to be as a platform artist. And based on how they performed at that year's convention, we would invite them to be a trainer on the team. So I didn't realize
No, I didn't do that.
You were
it
like
was
a secret.
Yeah, it was
you were
a
like
secret.
a secret.
And like finding out later, they were just like, we've been watching you for a while, and like Danielle's talked about you, and we've been talking about you, and like, yeah, you're doing feedback. And then it was like a couple days, and then they asked me, they're like, why, like, what do you want to do and why do you want to do it? And I was like, well, I've always wanted to like be a trainer, but I'm like, that's just not for me. Like, I just don't know if I can, and I don't know how. And they're like, cool, great. So you're going to come out and you're going to be at the thing. So I actually showed up at the first fact map.
Oh, okay.
And they were like, this is Sarah. She's our new trainer. And everyone's like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
So I was like, ah.
But it's crazy, though, because I feel like one of the things that sets my education apart is, like, everybody teaches it the same, right? We have the same verbiage, like, down to the sectioning.
Yeah.
It's very specific. And so I was like, if you're really good at doing hair and we can teach you under our frames, it's like I went to Paul Mitchell School. They have a specific way that they hold their foils, that they hold their comb. You know what I mean? So that's really what I wanted to adopt inside of my education, where it's like I can see somebody who's a phenomenal artist, and I've figured out how to train and educate my artists. So let me bring you on, and you can train under this frame that I've already created, right? So it's like you can teach the MBR sectioning, the MBR stitching, and all these things. But that's so funny. For some reason, I was thinking that you came on when Luz, because Luz was one of the last ones to come on. I was thinking you came on when she did.
I was after that. But like, well, people will ask me like, how'd you become a trainer? How'd you become a trainer? And I'm like, honestly, I kept my head down. I did all the things they told me to do. I tagged everyone. I asked for feedback constantly.
But that's why you doubled your income in the first year, because it's like somebody who hires a trainer, or they pay for a program, but then they only like commit like 30%, right?
Well, and at the time I was like, that's a lot of money to put into a class. It's like signing up for a gym membership.
Yeah.
You're just like, okay, well, I paid for it. I have to go.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm paying for this thing. If I don't do every single thing that they said, like, it's my fault if it didn't work.
Right. And I always say too, like, there's putting in the time, and then there's putting the time in intentionally. Yeah. The time's going to pass no matter what, right? The results are based off of you. And it's so funny because I was actually talking with my personal trainer this morning, and I'm getting ready to do a fitness competition this weekend for fun.
My gosh.
I know. It's like, sounds like a good thing to do.
I think it'll be a good idea.
But I was telling her, I was like, weightlifting was so intimidating for me, right? Like, I would always want like to be in great shape, but I would never do weightlifting. And then with my third baby, I gained like almost 60, 70 pounds. It was crazy. And I had like a blood clot and all this stuff. And I was just like, screw it, I'm going to get in the best shape of my life. And I reached out to my trainer, and I told her, I said, listen, I work out almost every day. I have a little bit of anxiety and depression, and working out is my medicine. Like
that's what I do with yoga.
Yeah, like that's my, I don't take anything. Like, I work out, and it really helps me. It helps me set my day. And so I'm like, listen, I'm working out almost every day. And I'm already kind of stressed about my food, because like I want to eat healthy, but I want to enjoy myself, but you know what I mean? And I'm like, every woman, if like at some level, stresses about their food. If they say they don't, they're lying. Like, it's a woman thing. Like, we're always like, oh, should I have one more cookie? Should I have this? You know what I mean?
You're just like, what's gonna happen?
What's gonna happen if I just eat 10 more? You know, like, you don't know. I can't eat
the whole package.
If I eat steak, I'm gonna like blow out. Like, all these things, right? Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm already a little bit stressed about my food. I'm already a little bit stressed about my working out, even though I'm already doing it every day. And I'm like, I'm already putting in the time. I was like, so I would rather chase after a result and educate myself on how to get that result, because either way, I'm already stressed about food, and I'm already working out every day, right? And so that's what I really try to apply with like everything I'm doing. I'm already putting in the time. So why don't I really like educate myself? And my theory,
do it the right way.
Yes, my theory is that people won't do it out of fear of failure.
Yeah,
they're like even for me with my fitness thing, I'm like, oh, but if I commit, what if I can't do it? Well, I'm like, well, I'm already like not happy with where I'm at. So what do I have to lose, right? And so that can go inside of your art. That can go inside of your business. And it's not that I was unhappy. Actually, I was at the time, because I had gained like 70 pounds with my baby. And I was like, this is a problem. This is a problem. I'm not comfortable. I'm happy with that, right?
Oh, yeah.
So there is this level of having to be uncomfortable to kind of push past that.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, that's what we teach inside the academy. And that's probably why day, they were like, drop your cuts, drop this, drop this. Do you know how many people still to this day that have been maybe even inside the education or not inside the education that I like tell them, I'm like, hey, get rid of these services. And then they come to convention, I'm like, do you still have 6 root touch-ups on your books? And I'm like, let it go.
The funniest thing is you don't even like doing them.
Yeah,
I don't know anybody that likes it except for a barber that's like, I love men's haircuts. Most women are like, ugh.
Yeah, they don't want to do it. And I don't know why. It's like, well, I really like Tom.
But do you?
But do you? Yeah, like, is it, like, why? Like, or,
why do you like Tom?
Yeah, why do you like Tom?
What's so cool about him? Nothing?
Nothing's cool about Tom. Let him go. But I don't know. There's like, your progress or your growth is based on how quickly you choose to move. And sometimes we overthink it, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's cool is like, we've built a community where we're like, it's working for everybody, a lot of people here. So it probably made it easier for you to be like, well, they said go, so go, and it's working for Allie, and it's working for this person, it's working for that person, you know what I mean? And that's kind of my goal inside of like our industry. Like when I was talking to, who was I talking to? It was either Luz or Kiki yesterday. I was like, I think it was Kiki. I was like, I'm so shocked still to this day how like a lot of things in our industry are still being taught that like to me make no sense.
No, you basically just go to hair school to pass a test.
Yeah.
Honestly, you don't learn anything.
But still, like having... like I was talking to Kiki yesterday, the assembly line of clients, or like, and you're just like burnt out, and you don't even. But we're taught that like you have to persevere.
Yeah,
and I'm like, no, I want to actually enjoy what I'm doing while making good money.
Which I think is funny because no other profession in the history of ever does that. Like, doctors don't do that.
Yeah, no.
Nail techs don't do that. Like,
no.
School teachers don't do that.
No.
Why do we do that? Just hairstylists.
Just hairstylists.
It's
we are nuts.
You're right.
We really are nuts. And I don't know if my theory on things is we love what we do so much that we will, and we'll just keep saying yes and yes and yes and yes and yes until you don't even see it. And then you're like, I hate every single person on my books. I hate 50%.
My job.
I hate my job.
Yeah.
And you're like, I just don't want to do it anymore. And instead of looking at the mess you created within doing hair, of like taking every service, you would rather switch your profession and go be a massage therapist than just clean up the mess that you have.
Well, because when I was married and before as I was getting into NBR, we weren't doing great at the time, so I was working constantly to get away from being at home, but I hated being at work because I'm like these clients are garbage. And it was just so hard. And so when I signed up for NBR, literally I drained my bank account and his, and I was like, sorry, I'm doing it. I didn't even ask. And I was like, really sorry about that. And he comes in because, it was a phone call interview. And I just said, so we have $0 until I can make this back. Yeah. And I was like, you get paid in a week. So I guess we'll have money in a week. And he was like, we haven't gone grocery shopping. And I was like,
top ramen is delicious.
I was like, it's too late now. It's non-refundable. But I just knew.
But pressure creates diamonds.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know. Like to this day, I don't know what pushed me to do it because I am such I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'm such an overthinker.
If you're at the point where you're spending all your money on education, you're already in trouble, and you're at some kind of low.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
To where you're like, fuck it, I got nothing to lose. Yeah. Even though you do, but if I invest this, I don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
And it's true. I remember I moved to Arizona, and I'll just share this story really quick. When I first moved to Arizona, I had 0 clients, and I got a job at a really nice commission salon in Scottsdale. But I'd been doing hair for 10 years. I'd already started my brand, and I was like, I'm not doing commission, and I'm not driving all the way to Scottsdale. So I rented, having no clients, and everyone was like, "You're crazy. You're gonna go
swim."
Yeah, I was like, I'm like, if I rent, I'm like, I'll figure it out. And I did the numbers. I was like, even just to pay my rent, if I had two new MBR clients a month, I'd still profitable, right?
That's what I did. I was like, as long as I have one NBR client a month, I can pay for Mastermind and I can pay off my thing and I'm good. Like, even if I fail, at least if I have one a month. And to me, I'm like, I can do one a month.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so crazy. So I was doing phone interviews for students who are interested in applying for the Academy. The Academy is a $15,000 program. Yeah. It's a year-long program. It's a pretty heavy investment inside of the hair community. It's as much as hair school.
Yeah.
And I was doing an interview with somebody, and she just kept kind of like backpedaling and backpedaling. And I was like, listen, I know you need this.
Right.
I know you need this. And I said,
feel like everyone needs
and
it.
I literally was like, if you don't believe in yourself enough to get one new client
a month,
then you probably shouldn't be doing hair. And I just sat on the phone and let her sit in that for a second. And she was like, wow. And I was like, so I think that you are ready and you need to commit. And she's like, okay.
And sometimes you just need somebody to like believe in you enough to be like, you're fine.
Yeah, you're fine. You need somebody to tell you. Like I literally was like, if you need to get out of your story. And she was like, well, I need to ask my husband. I need to do this. And I said,
but do you?
And I was like, if you don't believe in yourself enough to get one client, you're in the wrong industry.
Right.
And she was like,
there's an application from McDonald's.
I was like, I just called her out on her bluff. I was like, I'll give you permission all day long. So it's crazy. Like in the hair industry, like there's so much success that can happen, but it's really up to you becoming more than the artist and becoming more than the artist and really just like honing in on your craft and really discovering your niche and charging accordingly to that.
Yeah.
So I hate to cut this podcast short. We actually use this. We double up with this podcast studio for trainings. And unfortunately, Sarah, your time has expired.
Dang.
But I know you really wanted to talk about that assistant you're going to be hiring next month, but you're just going to have to
Everyone
wait.
messaged me. It's fine. Listen, if you guys don't message me, Danielle's going to ask me the next time I'm here, and then she's going to fire me, so that's on you.
I want to see, I'm actually interested to see your workflow. What I think we should do is like, we create a training for workflow for beginner MBR people, and then how to, I know we already have it, but like how to slowly incorporate or how to train an assistant. Should come like directly after that.
Yeah.
And when to transition. I think that people don't know when. They're like, okay, I have 5 MBR clients. Is now the time? Okay, is now the time? So it's really like a question of how to integrate an assistant and when is the right time. Yeah. That's what we're going to do.
Done.
I'm done. All right. Well, Sarah, thanks for being on another episode of the Big Money Stylist podcast. You guys can follow Sarah at Sarah.haircandy. Hold on. It's something candy. Say it again.
Sarah.haircandy.
Sarah.haircandy. And if you want more information on NBR education, go to nbr.education. We have an online course. We have in-person classes. We have virtual events. We have all the things to make sure that you get sucked into our tribe. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next week on another episode of the Big Money Stylist podcast. Bye.